Welcome to my podcast, Shaping Your Journey. My guest in this episode is Andrei Malashenko, timpanist with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra. Andrei discusses his journey from student in Montreal under Pierre Beluse and the great timpanist Louis Charbonneau before going to New Zealand, working with that orchestra, New Zealand Orchestra, and then returning to Montreal and gaining the position of timpanist for the Montreal Symphony. Here is Andrei Malashenko. Hello, Andrei. So nice of you to take the time to be on this podcast with me. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Thanks.
Thanks, Aldo. Thanks for having me. It's really good to be here. And I got to tell you, man, I'm digging your studio behind you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. You got all those amazing symbols and stuff. Anyway, nice to be here. How you doing?
No, thank you. It's like I call it my playroom, and it's, you know, we percussionists are really guilty of like accumulating, and then you need more space, and then accumulating, and then you need more space. Yeah. But hey, it's what we love to do, right?
Man. Mine isn't quite as elaborate, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, here, I mean, before we start in the conversation, tell us a little bit about your very beginning. Where did this all start for you?
Very, very, very beginning. I remember, I don't know how old I was. I was a kid. And one day I just walked downstairs to the basement, got all the laundry baskets, couple of paint cans, turned them upside down, found 2 pieces of wood in my father's workroom, and just started wailing. And just from there, it just went on. I mean, till now, but that's really where it started.
Did anybody inspire you? You just started hitting things?
You know, it was at that point, to tell you the truth, I don't really remember. I mean, I was always fascinated with the drummers. Every time I'd see a band or something, I'd always be looking at the drummer. Always at the drummer.
Right.
So I guess that inspired me. Later on, I had definite inspirations to keep going. But in the beginning, it was I just loved the drums. I was fascinated with how they sounded. And I wanted a drum set. So I went downstairs and I made one.
Beautiful. That's nice. And then from that to being like the timpanists in one of the great world orchestras, Montreal Symphony, that's a big stretch. So it's fantastic. I mean, it's nice to have these conversations that you say, where did that actually start? Who did it? Sometimes it's the strangest things. Sometimes it's the obvious. But it's really interesting, though, Andrea. And I always wonder, you know, what is that first sparked in each of us? Because we all have a different story, but for some reason, we get attracted to it first. And it's strange. You can't even explain that, right?
Well, my philosophy is you actually don't choose. It chooses you. And so all of us get this spark. You can't explain it. I can't explain why I was fascinated with drums and turned laundry baskets around. I just know I had to do it. And throughout my life, it's something that I have to do. I don't have a choice. You know, I just have to go and practice or play or do something. It's just part of me. Yeah. So I know it's very mysterious, but for me, it's actually music chooses you as opposed to you choose music. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I see your point. And I think a lot of people would agree when you really think about it, like anything. I mean, it's all of a sudden it reaches out to you and you say, okay, you're on that mission.
Yeah.
And then from then on, hills and valleys. But
a lot of hills and valleys, man.
Yes.
A lot.
So after, I mean, what was the beginning? Did you you studied in school? You were playing in the bands?
Well, when I was in high school, there was no music program in my high school, and I had a friend of mine. But before that, I mean, I started to beg my parents for a drum set when I was early high school, and the deal was you have to do a year of piano. So I did the year of piano.
Nice.
Piano's great, but I suffered immensely, but I did it. I'm glad I did it now when I sit at the piano, but back then And then I got a drum set, and then I had a friend in high school who was a guitarist, and we would jam. We'd play AC/DC and all that kind of stuff. And while I was doing that, I started taking lessons with Jamie McMillan, who I'm sure you
Oh,
know.
Jamie, of course. Funny story. He's a really funny story for me. I grew up in Ottawa, okay?
Yeah.
And I played in the rock bands and all of that. And when I came to McGill, Jamie was already there before me. I think he was almost graduating when I arrived. And then Jamie McMillan, and I said to him, "Do you have a brother guitar player in Ottawa, Pierre McMillan?" It was his brother. So I
Really?
played in a band with his brother.
He was
Small world.
I've been trying to find him. I can't find him. I don't know
Yeah,
where
I can help you with that.
great, because he was a really good teacher. He was really cool,
Yeah, yeah,
and he helped me a lot. He introduced me to reading and rudiments and everything, But that with Jamie, it was like strictly snare drum for a while. He
right.
was kind of like, no, you're not ready to do anything, but you have to learn what a paradiddle is and a flam and all those kind of things. And it was great. And I did that for maybe I studied with him for 3 or 4 years, something like that.
Right. Well,
Did
he was the Pierre Beluse school. We had the same teacher, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was, I think I stopped lessons, and I wasn't as serious. I was always playing drum set. That's the point in my life. I know we're jumping around, but it was around 14, 15 where I discovered photography, and I was into other art forms type thing. And like the drum set was always there. I was playing, but it kind of took a back seat, and I wasn't quite sure where my path was going to take me.
Right.
And then I heard Neil Peart, you know, like
Yes.
a million other people on this planet. And at that point, I decided that really music, I had to do it. I wanted to be Neil Peart. I wanted to play in a band like his and all that kind of thing. And then I auditioned for Marianopolis. I got in the first year. Marianopolis is affiliated with McGill, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's all Beluse school. The first year I studied with the late Bob Slopkov.
Okay.
May he rest in peace. I
Yes.
wasn't quite ready for Pierre yet, but I worked really hard that year. And a year later, Pierre took me as a student. And after that, CJEP, as you know, is 2 years. And after that, I auditioned for McGill, and I got into McGill and started doing my undergrad with Pierre. And,
Yeah. And the
it-
rest is history. Pierre Beluse, I mean, you and I have talked about this. He's one of those. He was. I mean, he's passed, but he was one of those forces. He was
oh,
a
yeah.
drum set player, but he was in the Montreal Symphony at the time when he taught at McGill.
Yeah.
Great jazz player, but the greatest in contemporary music. I mean, and
Was
talk about nuance. Talk about learning to play music.
Yeah, Pierre, I really loved Pierre. I was very proud that got to study with him because, it wasn't easy. He didn't take everybody, as you know.
Yes.
A lot of people that wanted to study with him. He was, at that point, there were a lot of people auditioning for McGill. And, I think Pierre, for me, there was a couple of things that really blew me away about Pierre. First thing, his concept of sound
Yes.
was incredible. That guy would never bring an instrument in that sounded lousy. Every one of Pierre's instruments, you'd go like, whoa, man, that is amazing. His cymbals, his snare drums, his tam-tams, even to the smallest detail, his triangles, everything he had sounded beautiful. That's
Yeah.
one thing I really loved about him. And another thing is, Pierre was actually I thought he was an incredible teacher because
Yeah.
not only would he teach you, you have to play music, you have to listen to what people are doing around you, which was very important for him. But he also actually taught me how to practice effectively.
Yes.
No, he actually he babied everyone when they'd come in and say, okay, he'd give you a piece of paper and there'd be, exercises. Okay, you do this one for 2 minutes and you start at this speed. And when it sounds good, everything was very scientific in that way. And it was really effective. For me, it was incredible because you could really see whether you were improving or not, and everything was organized.
Yeah.
Just what I loved about it. And I still practice that way today,
Yeah. No, but I know. And he would make you work on the sound. You have to have a good sound.
Sound was everything.
Yeah. Sound and precision and
Yeah.
balance. I mean, we can go on and on, but it was like the real deep, deep study. Yeah, I mean, I remember, he'd stand there and make me do something like 150 times,
Yeah.
until it hurt, and then you start crying, and you say to yourself, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we've all been through that with
I
him.
remember I did in my third year, I was doing how everybody does that Bach G minor fugue,
Yes.
unaccompanied violin sonata. And so I learned it, and I played it for him, and he was sitting there. His glasses were always like this, and he's looking at the paper, and he goes, "Yeah, man, a lot of notes, a lot of wrong notes." So, he's like, "I want you to take it. I want you to take it back to 60 and rehearse it properly. Don't with the right notes, because it's the only way to learn it." He was amazing that way. I really miss him. He was a great musician, just a great musician.
Yeah.
And watching him play solo stuff and contemporary, as you said, it was quite something, really.
Yeah. Now we can go on and on about Pierre.
Yeah.
I remember once with repercussion when we were recording we were recording with I Musici with Tuli Turovsky, our version of the Carmen Suite.
Mm-hmm.
And then Turovsky says to me, "Who should we get on timpani?" And I said, "Oh, we have to get Pierre. He's I said he's got to be behind us because he'll also be able to tell us you should change that mallet. You should think about so that and he was like amazing. And everything he did. I mean, so
everything he did, he was just a great musician, and his emphasis on listening to other people was crucial for me.
Yes,
it was crucial. I mean, we used to do, you'd play Beethoven 5, you'd play the timpani part, and then we did everything with the recordings. So you're playing an excerpt, you do it with the recording, and he'd always, like, "Yeah, man, you're playing it, but you're not with the strings, or you're not with the oboe. Listen to the oboe line. You come in right after that." And to this day, that's what I do. I always listen to everybody in front of me and beside me. It's the only way to have good ensemble.
Right, exactly. But then you studied also with Louis Charbonneau, right?
Yeah. So what happened was I did 4 years with Pierre, and we were kind of at the point where both of us needed a break from each other, type thing. And but Pierre was amazing. He came up to me and said, "Hey, Louis Charbonneau is teaching a week at Demone Forget, and Demone Forget, actually, whatever it's called." And he said, "You should go. You should go. He's a great musician. You should go to that." So I went, and there were, believe it or not, there were only three of us there, which blew my mind. Yeah, I know. Maybe it was the wrong time of year or whatever, but we spent, Louis was another amazing teacher. He spent hours and hours with us there. Hours. I mean, we'd start at 8 and we'd finish at 11:30 at night, just playing stuff,
Beautiful.
And after that week, I came home and I was kind of like, I don't know what to do with my life. It's like, McGill, it's not I can go back, but it's not the greatest option. And so I talked to my mother about this, and she said, "Why don't you call Louis and just tell him that you want him to teach you?" and you don't think that you can go further without his help. So that's what I did. I called him, and then he set up a program at University of Montreal. Thanks to Robert Leroux, who was amazingly helpful in that. So it was this program where all you did was intense timpani with him. That's it.
Wow.
There were 3 of us in the program. It was 6 out. You practice 6 hours a day. So the shift would be, like from 7, 6 hours, 6 hours. And so the way it worked was he would play a couple of works for us. We would take notes, basically a master class. He'd tell us like the traps and tricky spots within the work. And then we'd have a week to play it, and we'd play it with the recording. That with, technique, sound, and all that kind of stuff. So I was really lucky to study with him. He was also a fantastic teacher. I've been incredibly fortunate with both of my teachers. They just gave me everything, never hid anything, were amazingly generous with their time with me. So I did that for 1.5 years with him, and I worked amazingly hard. I was there all the time, and when I'd get home, I'd be listening to different recordings of the piece we were playing. It was amazing. It was just like an amazing 1.5 years. And then I got a gig in New Zealand from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, just going back to that 6 hours a day, I mean, some people were joking when I would say, how many hours a day would you practice? Well, I had to do like at least 8 hours a day because you had to keep up on all that, plus your academics and everything you had to do.
Yeah.
It was like 24/7. And if you didn't do that, A, you wouldn't stay in the program. B, you wouldn't look very good or feel very good. And Pierre would certainly let you know. But if you're on that mission to get somewhere with this, or as far as you can, and for me it was like, how far can I push this to be what I want to be? And you're in the right place. Now the only thing that can go wrong is you don't do the work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you did. I mean, 6 hours.
It's like that program was amazing. I mean, it's up to you whether you want to make the best of it or not.
Yeah.
So, when it's snowing and it's freezing outside and you got to get up at 6 a.m. and then you got to walk to the metro, U of M, you got to walk up that hill. It's like, but
45 degrees. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the wind going like right at your face. It's up to you whether you want to do the work, but as I said at the beginning, that calling you have, like I had to do it. It was no choice. I wanted to do it. I loved doing it. I loved it. You're sitting there and you're practicing for 6 hours. I mean, it goes by like that. It's it wasn't laborious at all for me. I just loved it.
Yeah, nice. And you're in great environments. I mean, you're talking about McGill and then U of M, and all those people. I mean, and then I remember we would all run to each other's concerts, and we'd say, "Oh, what's so and so? Let's go see so and so." So everybody's supporting everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great times. I remember as a student, even there's John Cage came to town, actually, Université de Montréal, and he did a weekend workshop that I attended. I was still in Ottawa at the time. And there's so much going on, and all the percussionists were so serious.
Yeah.
Like but serious fun, right? It wasn't just serious competition. Sure. It was like serious fun. Hey, let's do this. And everybody says, yes.
Well,
all the time.
Yeah, it was back then. I mean, I don't know how it is now. I don't teach in universities anymore. I don't know the camaraderie. I don't know the deal. But back then, it was amazing. It was very rich, and I mean, there were so many amazing students around. And you're right, we'd go to University of Montreal to hear their percussion ensemble. They would come to McGill. You'd go hear different recitals, and then you'd start playing for each other. It was an amazing environment. And yeah, of course it was competitive, but it was a good competitive.
Yes.
I mean, everybody wanted to, for example, in the classical classical aisle, let's just call it. Everybody wanted to play at NYO and Orchestre Jeune du Québec. Everybody wanted the same gig, but we were all cool. Everybody was cool with each other at the same time, It was great.
No, that's great. And I just had a thought of Louis Charbonneau.
Hmm.
When I first came to McGill, Louis was making his drumsticks and timpani sticks,
Yeah.
and
I play with them now. I use them.
used them. Right, I still have mine, and I really have a hard time using others
Yeah.
once you get used to those. And then what Louis told me, which was really interesting, and I think it's important that the people know about this, that he and Vic Firth were very, very close friends. I mean,
Yeah. They were.
he would sub for Vic,
Yeah.
and it was actually Vic was making his own sticks. Remember,
Yeah.
and the timpani mallets were like too big. They're too big for me. I'm a small guy. I couldn't even lift them. I'm kidding, but it was just not
I know you're
for
kidding,
me.
man.
And anyway, Louis said to me that the original Vic Firth sticks were actually made in Montreal. Because
I
Louis,
didn't know that actually.
yes, Louis told Vic, he says, "Why don't you make your sticks here? I have a guy who makes my sticks, and they're really good, and it turns out really well." And
Yeah.
so if you look at the wood, it's exactly the same wood. And the original ones, of course. So the original Vic Firth sticks were being made here in Montreal. And then, of course, Louis uh, kind of let the whole thing go. He wasn't really interested in that, it
Yeah.
seems. And Vic did the opposite. He became,
Well, now everybody uses this, like forget about timpanists. Look at the drummers that uses sticks. Everybody uses the sticks.
yeah, yeah. No,
But
he
they're
was,
good sticks. It's a good product.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. He was smart. And they were even making those shakers, salt shakers and pepper shakers. I don't know if you
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
I remember back then there was Vic Firth everything. Remember that? In
Oh,
those days
yes.
there, you'd go to a store and you'd see Vic Firth mugs and shakers and name it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I use about I don't know 15, 20 years ago, Louis started making sticks again, and he made this stick, a double-ended stick, which I use all the time, and it's a wood stick. I know a lot of people use bamboo now. A
Yeah.
lot of people. I have tons of bamboo mallets, but what I find is for our hall, it doesn't bring out enough fundamental.
Okay.
And Louis sticks, it's just, I don't know, man. It's like an old shoe, It's just like you pick it up in your hand and it feels really good. And I can do almost everything I want with it. I use bamboo sometimes, but primarily I'm still using those sticks because I really like the fundamental, the note they produce.
Right. Yeah.
More low end than high end type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And like you say, the hall has a lot to do with it, especially with timpani.
Yes. Yeah,
Well,
it
even
does. I
mallets,
mean, our
but
hall, it's a beautiful hall. We're very lucky to be in there. The only thing is like they're still working on the acoustics, but the low frequencies don't really project as well as the high ones. So I'm still using those sticks, and I mean they're great, man. When we play in Europe, and I was lucky enough to play in Philharmonie in Berlin. You can change sticks because the low you hit a note and just it's everywhere. But here you still need to kind of you need a heavier stick, in my opinion. So, and I love those sticks. Louis sticks they were always great.
nice. How long did you stay in New Zealand, by the way, with that orchestra?
I did 4 years in New Zealand, and it was an amazing experience. It was a culture shock in the sense that, you're a student in Montreal, you do your work, you go party, go to the pub, get home at 3:30. You're young, you can do that stuff, right? Get up at 7, go practice. Montreal wasn't never closed. Well, in New Zealand, when I got there, the orchestra was based in Wellington. Everything
Okay.
was shut down at 11. You couldn't even take money out of a bank machine after 11 p.m.
Wow. Okay.
So that was a little weird for me, but in terms of, obviously it's all changed now, but, and it actually did change very much over the 4 years that I was there. From an orchestral point of view, it was an amazing experience. It's actually, I think, why I won MSO. I learned so much. It was my first job as a timpanist. It's a really good orchestra. We were playing massive repertoire. Franz Paul Decker was coming all the time there.
Wow. Okay.
I really learned how to play there. And there was a trumpet player named John Tabor. Do you know him? He was around for a long time in Montreal.
Okay, John Tabor. I know the name. I
So he
don't
was the
place it.
principal trumpet player in during Decker's time in Montreal.
Okay.
Then he was playing all over Europe and stuff. Anyway, he ended up in New Zealand while I was there. Amazing musician, amazing leader. You know, he taught me, I really learned from him when you have to lead and when you sit back. You know, there are times, you know, as a timpanist, you can't say, here it is, follow me all the time. You don't do that. And I learned a lot from him, just listening to him. It was an amazing experience. I learned so much in terms of repertoire, the mistakes you can't make when you're in an orchestra, both socially and musically. I learned everything. It was a great experience, and I was very close. It was a really close bunch of people, that orchestra. It was great. But after 4 years, you know, I missed my family a lot. I missed Montreal. I missed everything. And so I just walked into the office and I said, gotta resign, gotta go. And I left, which
Wow.
caused a lot of waves, man. You have no idea.
Wow. Like
Yeah,
what
you,
made
it
besides the
was,
family and the city, like this environment, of course, we're very fortunate here, but
yeah, we
um,
are.
yeah. And was it a quick decision or was it brewing for a while?
No, I was brewing for a while because I was coming back once a year to see my family at Christmas, and it was just getting just brutal, getting
Okay.
harder to leave. I mean, we're very close, our family. We're really tight knit. And it was just, I don't know, it was just brewing and brewing and brewing. And I was trying to make my life work there at the same time, but it just wasn't working. I was playing all the time. So I was like, there were two sides of me. One side was like, I wasn't happy in terms of the person spiritually or anything like that, but I was very happy professionally. And at the end of the day, I decided I got to go somewhere else, go back to Montreal, start over again, see what happens. So I did. So the decision probably was brewing for like a year and a half, but then I pulled the trigger, and you know, I don't regret it.
Right. And then before the audition for the Montreal Symphony came up,
Yeah.
so there was a period there where you were. I remember meeting you in the hall of McGill at one point because I was teaching there at the time.
Yeah.
And you had just come back and you were in transition. You had just come back from New Zealand, and you were there for a while before the Montreal Symphony audition came up, right?
Yeah. Well, when I came back, I decided that I kind of needed a break from orchestra. So I joined a rock band, and
Nice.
it was the grunge era, you know, Nirvana, Offspring.
Beautiful.
And so I auditioned. There was a band that was actually working that was looking for a drummer. So I auditioned for them. And I got in and we started playing all the clubs, all the roughest, heaviest clubs in Montreal, Laval. It was like, no, it wasn't the Spectrum. It was all the back alley clubs.
Okay.
And at the same time, I got a job in a record store. And I was also later on working as a receptionist at McGill.
Yeah, I
So I
remember
was doing
that.
a whole bunch of stuff, you know. The rock band thing, it was a blast. You know, you played in a rock band. You know how much fun that
Of
is.
course, of course. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah,
you don't make any money. I mean, we'd play 3 days and I'd walk out of there with $70.
yeah, yeah.
And that's after I was making like, I don't know, 55,000, 60 a year in New Zealand. And but it was a good year, you know, because it really pushed me back to really what I wanted to do. And then, you know, I started playing. I think there was a percussion audition at OSM, which I did. And I was, I think, one of the 3 or 4 finalists. So then I started getting a little bit of work with MSO as extra percussion. And then I moved up on the sub lists where I became first sub. And shortly after that, Louis retired.
Right.
And there was a Canadian audition where they didn't take anybody. And then I think a year after that, there was international, which I won. So that's basically the nutshell of the
Interesting.
path.
Nice. But it's really interesting that being a rock drummer, and that's I mean, when you mentioned the the whole Rush thing and Neil Peart,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
ending up with as timpanist in the Montreal Symphony. See, for me that's fantastic because that's the whole musician, where you're not living and playing with blinders. You really
yeah.
understand, right? I think it really makes a huge difference in the
I
player.
agree. I think it makes you it just makes you more well-rounded. Like one of my favorite drummers is Manu Katché.
Of
I
course.
love him. I love his groove. And as weird as this sounds, if you listen to him a lot, he teaches you how to really lay it down. And you can use that in an orchestra. When you have to lay down something when you're playing, people feel good when it's grooving and stuff.
Yeah.
And all those different drummers I listen to uh, help me a lot in what I do now. It all contributes, I find. And just being like this, I don't think that's good for any musician.
No. No, agreed. And
You know?
if you look back at people like Louis Charbonneau was a drummer, Vic Firth was
Yeah.
a drummer, Pierre Beluse was a drummer, John Beck was a drummer. And when I had
Mhm.
him on, that was his first love, and everything else was second. But nobody knows him as a drummer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Most of those people.
it's like when I discovered Neil Peart, I mean, I was playing drums like crazy. Like I was learning all the Rush songs. Of course, I didn't have the set for it. So the fills had to be on three toms instead of eight. But I was learning everything. Like I'd come home from school and just put on. At that time, they put out moving pictures,
Wow.
and I was just like playing everything in the basement. I was trying to do everything that he was doing, and then like we're going back now, but through university and stuff, I discovered classical percussion, which I fell in love with and stuff. But it all started with
Yeah.
him, his influence.
Yeah, and
But
it's really interesting because I mean that juxtaposition of the rock drummer of that level, like Neil, and then the
yeah,
classical percussionist, and I would have conversations with Neil about that. He was kind of a frustrated classical percussionist, and I said to him, I said, in your past life, were you a classical percussionist? He says, no, I've always wanted to be, and that's why I learn these parts, I create these parts, and he practiced them just like you would an orchestra part. Like that's the way he treated things. He was all complete orchestration, just like his writing. It was all
yeah,
thought out, and he behaved like a classical percussionist. That he really he had a lot of respect for, and he used to go to concerts, classical concerts of all kinds, and I think those of us who think you're either a rock drummer or classical, that's completely wrong because groove is groove, music is music. I mean, seven
yeah.
notes, and what you do with it. Then there's the cultural factor. But
Hmm.
having the groove and playing the percussionist in an orchestra, if you understand the nuance, the playing the groove, even if it's a triangle or a snare drum part, let's say you're playing bolero, well, that thing has to
Yeah,
swing, and you have to play it like you're playing the band, and the band happens to be 80 people or 100 people,
yeah,
bigger responsibility, so you have to be more solid in that respect.
sure. Well, it's everybody, no matter what, no matter what kind of music you're playing, there's always the one.
Yes.
And
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
you can make people feel one comfortably, uh, I can tell you firsthand, they really appreciate it. I mean, a lot of people come to me and say, it's very comfortable playing, when you're playing. And I'm very proud of that
Nice.
actually, because
Yeah.
rhythmically, everybody feels like, they're not struggling. They know where the one is
Yeah.
99% of the time.
Right. No,
There's always like,
that's
hey,
no, of course, but yeah, no, it's a big responsibility, and people think you're just playing parts. No, you're actually you're the glue that's holding that whole thing together. How long have you
yeah,
been playing with the
sorry, go
Montreal
ahead.
Symphony? How long have you been playing with the Montreal Symphony now?
Just to go back to Neil Peart for a second.
Okay.
I agree with you 100% because when I would watch him, he was extremely serious and it really influenced me. He was extremely serious in how he was playing his parts
Yeah.
and how he would, move to the percussion and stuff. It really influenced me a lot. There was, once in a while he'd throw his stick, but he was that kind of focus he
Oh,
had
yeah.
was really it
Amazing.
impressed me a lot and it influenced me a great deal. So it, I totally agree with you when you say he was kind of like he approached it more like a classical percussionist
Oh,
type
yeah.
thing. Anyway, that being said, with Montreal Symphony, this we just started our this is going to be my 26th season with them.
How time
Goes
flies.
fast.
Wow.
Yeah, it whipped by, you know.
It feels like yesterday almost. I said what?
Yeah,
But
I know. It feels like I just yesterday I walked into, Beluse's studio and said, "Hi, I'm Andrei Malashenko," type thing. It really it goes by very quickly.
yeah.
It's quite something.
Yeah, that's amazing. Some of the things you got to do with the Montreal Symphony. I mean, now that gathering all the what you've done in your own past.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you taught at McGill. What other things have you done in this journey that you've been sharing what you're doing?
Well, I taught in McGill. I taught at McGill for a while. I did teach at U of M also. I did the Orford camp when they used to have percussion back when it was Jean-François Rivet heading it. I teach there. Uh, I did a lot. I've taught a lot of private lessons, a lot. I've helped a lot of students for auditions and stuff like that, and I still do. I mean, nowadays a lot of people when they're preparing for auditions send me videos, and I listen to their excerpts and I, send stuff back, and I I really don't charge. Most of the time, I don't charge for that kind of stuff. It's like giving back type deal, and I know students are poor,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
whenever I can help, whenever they send me stuff, I'm there if they need me. I mean, I'm never easy when I send back comments because I don't think that helps the student. I
yeah,
don't rip the student to shreds, but if they're not ready, I tell them like, you need to be serious about this type of thing because it's so competitive. So besides that, MSO takes up a lot of time. It's a very, very busy orchestra. And so I do that. And in my spare time, I have a drum set in my basement and
So
I
you still
try to
play?
learn. Yeah, yeah. I have a beautiful DW in my basement.
Nice.
And so I learn, try to learn Danny Carey parts and stuff like that, and working on my double pedal. But when you're older, it's like there's a lot of osteo involved after you do a double pedal session. But yeah, I'm always doing music. I'm always listening to music. It's a big
Yeah.
part.
You just
Like
give me
you.
a thank you. I just had this image of what, like we're always blurring the lines. I'm like that, and I know you're like that. And I didn't know, but now I recently I learned when you mentioned all of this, so which was kind of pleasantly surprised me. So that's really nice. Now I understand. But it's really interesting. Do you remember way back? I think it was Remo who got Louis Belson, Vic Firth, and who else? There was a third person. I can't remember who that third person was. Was it Buddy Rich? I don't remember. In Los Angeles in a stadium, and they filmed them playing a piece or jamming or something. So you
No, I
had
don't remember
timpani and
that.
drum sets. Yeah. I think it was some kind of clip they did. If it wasn't a commercial, it was some kind of promo clip for Remo at the time. And
Yeah,
I thought that was brilliant. Like blurring the lines, like whether you're playing timpani, drum set, it's the same thing, right?
I agree. Look, you know what? The more music you know, whether it's, rock, jazz, Latin, classical, the more you can take in, the richer you're going to be.
Yeah.
There's, and I truly think you will be a better musician and you'll be more flexible. And, I really never believed in this is what you do, and I don't want you listening to anything else. I mean, I would tell students, look, your groove, like your time, go listen to Manu Katché. Go get a feel of how he does it, Uh, it's really important to blur everything. I mean, I know, of course, you have to specialize at some point, but I mean, the more music you know, the better.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
No, absolutely. And, to that effect, I saw recently there was a clip that came through on my Facebook feed, and it was like Jacob Collier. He had with the San Francisco Orchestra, he had invited Bobby McFerrin to conduct, I think it was Mozart's 29th Symphony or something. So you had all these people, and the orchestra was not the professional orchestra. They were like volunteers in this specific case. And seeing that whole world of crossing of all of these people and these elements, and it sounded great.
Do you know that Bobby McFerrin, he actually conducted us. He came to Montreal. It was about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
He was fantastic. And yeah, he was always doing 1, 2, 3, like he always does. And he was a great conductor. And we did Bizet's Symphony in C, and we did Prokofiev Classical Symphony. It was at Notre Dame, the cathedral.
Right.
And then he did a couple of encores, just, a cappella. It was amazing. Just mixed it all up. It was great.
Wow.
It's a great list.
I missed that. Wow. And I mean that's great. I mean, because to me it was the first time I had seen that, so I dug a little further. So he had done this before with other situations, but imagine like this great jazz singer coming in and doing classical works. Beautiful.
Well, a good musician is a good musician.
Yeah.
And that guy's a great musician. So, he was a lot of fun, and it was really cool to see Bobby McFerrin in front of you.
Right.
I mean, that's another thing, right? It's like there's Bobby McFerrin,
Right.
That was also it was great. We've done a lot of stuff like that. We do a lot of pops, and a while ago we used to really integrate bands into the orchestra with their mic drums and electric guitars and stuff. I loved it. It was great.
Nice.
The pop stuff.
Well, the new conductor is there from Venezuela. He's, a young guy who's like totally unassuming, right?
Yeah, Rafael Payari. He's a really great human being. He's a great guy to work with. He doesn't let you call him maestro. Every time you go up and go maestro, he goes, Rafael, just call me Rafael, He's a really amazing musician. He's pretty young. He's going to have an amazing career. We're very, very lucky to have him here. The concerts are amazing energy. We've done tours with him, very successful tours. We're putting out CDs. We're getting really nice reviews on our CDs. It's pretty hard to ask for more.
Nice.
So
nice.
We're pretty lucky.
It's really nice to have that kind of energy that's different, because he grew up in the El Sistema in Venezuela,
Yeah,
right?
he did.
Yeah, so that's interesting to see when you see the product of that, because they take the kids really young and they train them, and something that everybody should be doing, every country should do for those kids, to give them purpose and to give them those tools that, whether they end up being musicians or not, it doesn't matter, but they end up being great people. better people.
Have you ever heard that orchestra, the Sistema Orchestra? Like
No.
once in a while they're on YouTube, kids, monsters.
Oh, yes, yes.
I just listen to that and go, wow, man, that is incredible playing.
Yeah.
It's a really good, they must have amazing teachers there,
Yeah.
And the guy from Dudamel is also the guy from LA. He's from the Sistema as well.
Right.
The conductor. So Raphael is trying to establish that here, actually.
Okay.
So, hopefully I think it's going. I'm not quite sure, but he's a really good guy. He's a nice human being. I really like him a lot.
Yeah. He's the kind of person that, not only that he's shown that what can be done and being so young, but also investing more in the arts and culture. I always make the case. I was invited to the Senate when they were redoing Canada's foreign policy and culture, and I threw numbers at them because sometimes people don't understand the value of culture and arts unless you throw numbers at them, and then all of a sudden people can deal with accountants, but not saying, well, this is just great to just makes you happy, makes you feel better. It also changes the brain, problem solving, working together easier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then, when you say, $1 invested in culture, in the culture sector, the result is $29.
Right.
And that's a fact. That's a study. So, and then the money doesn't end up in somebody's account in Switzerland. That's That's the other. That's another benefit, which is totally productive. Better society, great economy. Anyway, that's making the case for the whole cultural.
Kudos to you, because I know you've been always doing that. You were a big advocate for that, and I know you work really hard at it. With COSA and everything you do. It's way to go, man. It's really something. I really admire that.
Thank you. And I think, we have to do things by example, not just talking about it. You do it and people see it, like anything. Anybody who brings their level, whether you're a timpanist or a conductor or whatever you're doing, to a level, and you, by example, you say, this is the way, what should be done is this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course,
understand examples more than, if you can talk, but if you actually see it, they can relate to it more.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of work. I know you work really hard at it. It's not an easy thing. And there's a lot of, I'm sure it's hard to open a door.
Oh, yes. Well, you take no, I never take no for an answer. I just say, no, okay, don't move. Thank you.
Here's another way of looking at it.
Yeah. But thanks for the compliments. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
We're doing something that we love to do. We enjoy it. We become good at it. But, thank God we never get it right. So we just stay on it. Right?
Boy, man, isn't that the truth, eh? Constant, eternal student. Yeah, that's what it is. Eternal student. And I find that, the minute that you think you're on top of it, it's going to humble you.
Oh yeah. All the time.
It's music has a way of really humbling you. I remember once, it was a really long time ago, but I did once I did Bolero and it went really, really well. I practiced really hard for it and I was really ready and it went great. And then I was hired to do it again 4 months later. And, I was saying, I got this, no problem. I didn't prepare. I just went to the rehearsal. And all of a sudden, my hands started shaking and I knew I didn't practice. And that was an amazing lesson that I've kept forever.
Beautiful.
And, forever a student, forever, always learning.
Yeah, no, it's funny because sometimes I get this, and somebody will call me for some. Can I see you tomorrow at such and such? No, I'm practicing. I'm working on something, and then you get silence. But Aldo, you've been doing this for so long. I said, I still have to get it right.
I know. It's hard for people to understand, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, look, when I practice timpani, I practice half notes, I practice eighth notes, triplets, try to get it nice and even. I practice my staccato, just foundation stuff, always foundational stuff. I practice my roll, I make sure it's smooth, practice my pedaling for the tuning. I mean, it's all stuff you start practicing when you first time you walk into the studio.
Right, right. Yeah.
You know,
But the nice thing is it keeps us interested. It keeps us interesting, therefore, and it keeps
young too,
us
keeps you young.
keeps you young. Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, Paul McCartney, 83, Ringo Starr, 85. I mean, it's beautiful to have all of these guys and all the. I mean, who was it? The classical guys, even worse. Arnie Lang. I mean, 89 he
Yeah,
passed, but
I
that
know.
was by accident. He was still, he would call me and he'd say, Aldo, I want. One time, Arnie Lang said to me, with all your trips that you do in Cuba, in that festival you do, I'd like to do a master class and do a performance of
Yeah,
Varèse's ionization and
great.
repeat because it was performed. It was in 1934, right? He says both in New York and Havana. And I want to repeat that. He says, I have my group that is going to do it in New York, and I'd like to do
Yeah,
it in Havana. So I said, Arnie, let's do it. So,
that's amazing.
you know, he's not
It's
he's not 40 years old at that time. You
well,
know?
it was funny because for a while I was actually I'm 59 now. It's amazing. I feel like I'm, 20. But when I look in the mirror and try to get out of bed quickly, I know I'm 59. Everything hurts, man. But I was actually contemplating a little bit of retiring because I can retire in a year now if I want. And we were just playing Mahler 9 like 2 weeks ago. And I was going like, what the hell are you thinking, man? This is like,
Too
you
much
can't get
fun.
better. This is amazing. This is
Yeah.
like, you're so lucky to be able to do this. And I gotta say, like, the musicians in MSO, it's a truly an honor to be there because,
Yeah.
they're just, I'm surrounded by these amazing musicians. They're just everywhere I turn. There's just these amazing musicians. I feel incredibly lucky to be
Yeah.
part of that. And, as a timpanist, where I'm situated, I'm right in the center back of the orchestra and I hear everything. And it's just, man, I'm listening and going, God, these people are just fantastic players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to retire. There's
Yay.
just like,
You know,
no way, man.
good. The other day when you said retire, I said, I better tell him he better not.
Yeah. Well,
You
it was
can't. Not
like,
yet.
I don't know
Not
why it
yet.
came into my mind, but that performance of like Mahler 9 was I said, how can you possibly leave this while you're healthy,
Yeah. That's it.
like, and the
That's right.
thought of you never playing this stuff again with these people in front of you that are incredible. It kind of, I don't know, startled me a bit. I said, no, I'm not ready yet. Couple of, 5, 6 more years. I don't know. We'll see how long.
Yeah. No, but
But
as long as you have your health, I think that's probably the most important thing after your sanity and everything else. But if you have that, don't mess with it. And you still have a lot to say. You still just
yeah,
the when you say being ripe, seasoned, and then you go beyond. There are levels that only when you've done such things for so long and so well, you can share it the right way because you're in position to. And
yeah,
because
it's true.
yeah,
Yeah, that experience, as when you help that experience, it enables you to explain things much more clearly, I find, to people, to younger people, because you have all that behind you. And although I'm still a student constantly, only the last 3, 4 years, I really felt good behind the tip, like comfortable, like, okay, like I know I can do this, you know. You still have to practice and you're still learning, but I feel like, yeah, I'm good now. I'm good here. It took me a long time to feel like that because in my particular case, like nothing came easy. I had to work hard for everything,
Yeah.
everything I did.
And
So,
that's the best
you
way,
know,
really. That's the best way. When you have to work for it, then you can explain it better, you appreciate it
yeah,
better, and you work
yeah.
harder.
Yeah, well, it was my path. I've met people that were born to do it. They're lucky. That's cool. That's their path. My path was everything you're going to do is going to take you a really long time to learn. You're going to have to really be focused on it, but you will learn it, and I have, but it's a lot of hours in a room and fine, whatever it took. I mean, I just always just wanted to play in an orchestra. And I was never taking no for an answer, you
Yeah.
know?
And what would you say to somebody who's in the orchestra world, especially because, and I'm going to ask you this question, just because there are only so many symphonies and there are only so many timpanists who will retire,
Yeah.
and so many positions, very few that would be open. Somebody who's aiming to be a timpanist in an orchestra, and there are hundreds practicing who want to be it, you can't blame them,
Yeah.
and it's a great thing to be able to do. What would you suggest to them?
I would suggest to them that they just work extremely hard. And if a timpanist is what you want to be, do not stop until you're a timpanist. And, what I found was it's a very competitive, all music is very competitive.
Yeah.
Orchestra is also very competitive, but what I found was, and that's what Charbonneau told me actually. He said that if you're really good and have a really good potential, no matter how competitive and blocked up and congested everything is, people always make room for you if you're really good and show a lot of potential. So, I mean, my advice is, first of all, you have to work extremely, extremely hard. And I'm sure that's for everything, for drum set, for Latin, for everything, for jazz. But I can speak for classical. Yes, there's limited amount of space, but there's always one that comes up. There's always an audition that comes up. And I can tell you, being on the other side of a panel, like listening as opposed to auditioning, when you go to an audition, and let's just say you have 50 people, 40 aren't really that ready.
Okay.
10 are really ready, So you have to keep that in mind. You have to be extremely ready. You have to be really serious. You have to really work hard, and it'll come. You might not win the first one or second one, but if you keep on plugging away, you'll get it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And also,
if I
and
got
also,
it, you can get it.
and also doing your homework. One of the other things is context. I mean, if you're auditioning for the Montreal Symphony, is one mindset. If you're auditioning for New York Philharmonic, it's slightly different. So you have, I think this is my opinion. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but like anything else, if you want to work with a specific group, a specific singer, an artist, symphony orchestra is no different. Is their context, like play to what does the orchestra sound? What are they looking for a sound? It may be two people that are equally that would do the
Yeah.
gig, they'd be perfect, but one kind of understood that we play sharper,
A
we
certain
play,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, well, of course, there's context. I mean, if I'm going to go and do an audition, let's say in Berlin for a timpanist,
Right.
playing the way I play now, I'm never going to win, ever. Doesn't matter how good I sound because I'm not playing in their style and I'm not
Right.
playing in their sound in that context. So every orchestra has a sound. If you're going to if you're going to audition for Berlin, New York, wherever, you have to understand what the timpani sound is, what the timpani school is, and you have to adapt to it. I mean, I'm not going to go to Berlin and play Montreal school. It's not going to happen. Same thing in New York. Well, New York is much closer,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's Roland Koloff who studied with Saul Goodman, Vic First. Everybody studied with Saul Goodman. But there's context. You have to do your homework in that way as well. I agree with you totally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
It's
think
important.
that's one element that's often not spoken about, but I think it's really important. It's a small element that can make a difference at least in the understanding,
Well, it can
right?
make a huge difference whether, if you're two people in the finals and one has done the homework and understands what New York Phil sounds like and the other one has no idea, you know, we all know who has a better chance of winning
Yes.
that audition. So, but mostly I would say that you just have to have your excerpts prepared and you have to, uh, one thing I would say for students is if you're practicing an excerpt from Beethoven 5, let's say, or any excerpt for that matter, you have to listen to the entire piece. You have to understand and know the piece, not just the two lines of the excerpts, because then you're not going to play it in the spirit of the piece.
Right, right.
So I tell all my students, even Charbonneau, when we used to play the music for him, he would tell me, okay, sing me the adagio, even though it's tacit for timpani. What does the adagio sound like? And you'd
Wow.
have to know it. You have to know the complete work. That way, as a listener, when you're listening to the person play the excerpt, you will hear the piece, as opposed to, so it's very important to listen and know. That's actually part of doing your homework. You have to know the piece. And sometimes the piece is an hour and a half, man. Sometimes like Mahler 5, there's a lot of auditions, a lot of excerpts from Mahler 5, and it's an hour and a half. You have to learn it. You have to know all of it. It's really important. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same for every other genre of music.
Absolutely,
You,
absolutely. No, that's why
you
I'm
know,
saying it. Because a lot of people talk about it in the other genres, but I've
yeah,
rarely heard it being said in the classical world. And to me, it's no different. If you want to play, for example, like take Rush, for example. If you want to replace Neil Peart, well, it has to be somebody that knows that music so intimately, and
yeah.
knows the people behind, knows the story, the big picture. Otherwise, you won't even be
Yeah.
listened to. Yeah,
Well, you're
example.
not going to sound like, you're not, it's not going to make sense to the
Right.
people listening to you. It's like any jazz tune or anything. If
Yes.
if you walk in and start going ding 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 and you've never heard the tune, it's
Yeah.
over,
Yeah. That's
you
right.
know.
That's right. Yeah. No,
Or
that.
for example, when you do gigs, I'm sure when you walk in, you know what you're playing, but you also know in what context, what song, how the song goes, where's the bridge, where are the verses,
Sure.
all
Sure.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's one thing I learned a long time ago. Is before when you're hired for something, or you're looking to play with certain people, you can't just show up just because you can play. You want to show up in their context, as if
Exactly.
and they'll hear it, totally hear it. Like doing your homework, and which is
Yeah. And
again, it's
sorry, go
something
ahead.
I haven't heard a lot in the classical world, but to me it just makes complete sense. And I would always listen to everything, just so it's in my head, so I play in that mindset, whether it's contemporary music or a tango, whatever it is. You have to know what it
Well,
is. It's a lot of work,
exactly.
right?
It's a lot of work, but listen, I always loved it. Just like I would take 5 different recordings of Mahler 5.
Okay,
I wouldn't listen to them all day, but I would listen to them and I would compare. And so Mahler 5, there's an excerpt, there's 4 notes you play. It's a solo and you repeat those 4 notes. It's a triplet and a roll. You repeat it 3 times, if I remember correctly. If you don't know how the piece goes, you're never going to play that correctly, you know. And some students
right.
send me videos, and usually timpani solos are like 2 bars, something like that, and usually, and the people that have never heard the piece, you can tell right away that have never listened to it, how they play it.
Right, right,
And it just doesn't work. And like yourself, if you don't know what the tune is and you just start playing,
right. Yeah,
they're going to call you once, they're never going to call you again,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
basically.
No, absolutely.
And I tell my students, all the time. Anybody who I teach, I say, you have to know the music. It's really important. If you don't know the music, don't bother.
Yeah. And the context.
Of course.
Yeah. Anyway, we could go on and on about interpretation and ideas, but I really do want to thank you for being on. It's always a blast catching up with you. Now I'm going to see you forever.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's my pleasure. I haven't seen you in so long. Like I said, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always great to talk to you. Every time we run into each other once every 10 years, it's like, yeah, man, it's really nice to see him again. It's been a while, but it's really good to see you.
Yes. Thank you. And as I always say, to be continued.